Ms. McCoy, I want to ask you, what has been the Carter Center's official role here in Bolivia since your arrival on the 21st?
We were invited by the National Election Court to be international observers, and so we formed a small mission to come and observe these elections as international observers. That's the official role. But in addition, we have had an office here, a representative here, permanently for the last year and a half. We have some projects in Bolivia working with conflict management training with various groups in the country. So we've been following this process, this constitutional process, with great interest over the last 2 years.
And how would you classify what has happened on the 25th? What has been the official observations of your organization?
From what we saw, we went to 3 of the 9 departments. We had observers and looked at both rural and urban centers, and we saw a very calm day, orderly, with a very high participation of voters, the highest they've had in recent years, 90% participating, and with local citizens running the elections. They're chosen, they're trained to run the elections. It's also very interesting that the vote count is public. The citizens can come and watch the count, and they can challenge the count if they want to. What we saw in all the places where we were, which is not the entire country, but in the 3 departments that we visited, we did not see any irregularities that could affect the outcome of the vote.
And then in terms of, I know the Carter Center has their office here, are there aspects of the new Constitution that you believe the Carter Center may be a part of in helping to further democracy here in Bolivia? Are there parts of the new Constitution that maybe your organization will be consulting with the government on?
Mm-hmm. This is going to be a very complex process, and it touches on a lot of areas. A completely new justice system, including an indigenous justice system alongside the ordinary civilian justice system. There are going to be 4 levels of autonomy, so different areas of government with different responsibilities and authorities, each one that they'll have to be working out. There will also be further electoral reforms, and in our area, we have been working with the land question, and the agrarian reform and distribution of land has been ongoing and is part of the new Constitution that will continue. So we'll continue to work with that area. We will offer our recommendations on the electoral process, and if requested, help with the electoral reforms that will be coming. And of course, we're always ready to provide any facilitation that the government or the political actors may ask of us as they continue to negotiate the laws that will be needed to implement this new Constitution.
And I know you're also the director of the Americas program at the Carter Center and also a professor of political science at Georgia State University.
Yes.
How would you classify Bolivia's system of democracy in comparison to other democracies here in the Americas?
Yeah. Bolivia has had a democratic system since 1980, and it's a fascinating country because they've had a lot of ups and downs in terms of social protest and participation of people. In the last 7 to 8 years, they've also had a lot of political instability, changes of government where social protests have actually resulted in the early removal of presidents. But it's been a very high participation of the people, which is very positive in democratic terms. And there's a kind of a culture of street protests, which sometimes can turn violent. And our goal is to help Bolivia resolve their questions and address and reinforce the participation of people, but avoiding violence and, of course, avoiding any tragic deaths. This period now of the new Constitution is also very interesting, particularly to highlight the role and the greater inclusion of indigenous peoples that have not felt included really for the last 500 years. So this is a very important democratic experiment for all of the hemisphere to watch.
And one last question. In considering that the relationships the Bolivia and the U.S. has had recently have reached, I'd say, pretty much a low point in our relations, how do you think the U.S. can best further democracy building here in Bolivia? What would you say in your professional opinion?
Well, I really hope that with the new Obama administration, we'll be able to start again with discussions with the Bolivians, and to address, the main thing is to address with respect and mutual understanding and mutual consultation on the needs of each country. Obviously, the production and transshipment of cocaine is of great importance to the U.S. and to Europe, actually, which is the destination of most of the drugs from Bolivia. And Bolivia, of course, has great needs in terms of poverty and development. And so if both countries can address the needs of both, I think we can make improvements, and it's very important to try to do so.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. McClure.
Sí, 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 sí.